Well, good evening, everyone. Great to see everyone here tonight. For those of us that haven't met, my name is Don Quartz. I'm academic dean here at Rockford Lutheran, and glad to really be a part of an important kickoff event for you and your family as we take a look at what these next years are going to look like and where we're going to end up, and what's going to end up feeling like a pretty short 4 years. Never fails, a graduation night, people come by and say, wow, where did that time go? It will go quick, and more importantly, there'll be a lot packed into it, and we want to be deliberate about what we packed into it, so that we're really equipping ourselves as students and parents equipping your students to be everything God created to be. And so that's where we're going to kind of start with things tonight. So let's begin with the word of prayer. Holy Father, we thank you for the opportunity for us to gather. We thank you for the blessing of these young people that you have imparted to our care. God bless us each to be good stewards of those gifts, and may these students be good stewards of the gifts that you've given them. Help us to find ways that we can help grow them and develop them and nurture them to accomplish everything that you've gifted them to do and to be and to accomplish. Lord, give us open hearts and minds and means to learn tonight and to seek after the path that you've laid out before us over these next years. In your name. Amen. So we're going to start talking a little bit about, first of all, what we stand for as a school. When we talk about our core values as a school, we talk about the importance of being a Christ-centered environment. We're really helping students to grow and to be everything God created to be. And that's where we want to start from as we take a look at what these next 4 years are going to be about. We're also going to take a look at, okay, so how do we use those gifts that God's given us to the best of our ability? How can we use those with excellence? And how can we use those to serve other people? Those gifts that God has given us aren't for our benefit. They're for us to use to make a difference in the lives of other people. How are we each going to do that? And how is that each going to happen differently for each one of us, depending upon the individual gifts that we've all been blessed with? And how are we going to do this in a fashion that really creates a relationship of harmony between us and the rest of the people that we interact with? Because we know that as members of the body of Christ, we can accomplish a whole lot more if we're working together than if we're all doing our own sort of thing. So what I mentioned those as kind of a kickoff point, because I want you to see how that kind of rolls into all the topics of what we're going to be talking about as we continue on tonight. Let me mention before we get any further too, we are recording the session for tonight. I've already had calls from folks starting to be here, and so we post that on our school website, and we post the PowerPoint presentation as well. So you don't have to worry about taking notes and all that sort of thing. It'll all be there for you to take a look at as well on the school website under Counselor's Corner. Okay, so some questions just to think about. And these are for you and your students to spend some time talking about it. A lot of what we want to talk about tonight is, and a lot of the focus we want to have is, how can you and your students really take a look at ways in which you can be deliberate about what's going to happen over the course of these next few years. And, you know, there's a degree to which certainly our parenting relationships change a little bit, and our student relationships with our parents change a little bit as we get older. But one of the things that I want to remind you of, especially as parents, and I know for quite a few of you, this is probably your oldest, you know, there's still a great need for a balance between, yes, giving a little bit more freedom and responsibility so that we learn to make good use of the responsibility that we have as we get older. But at the same time, the security that comes with some appropriate boundaries that are still there to help us as we continue to struggle and grapple with some new challenges that we face as we get older and go through the high school years. So that balance is key. And so some of these are important discussions to have, because there's a lot of guidance that you as parents can offer your students. And so I want you to think about some ways in which you can find an opportunity to interact and provide that kind of guidance in ways that will be helpful to them. We talk about education because we realize that there are ways in which we are going to be more than what we could otherwise be because of the gift of education. And that's going to involve career elements. It's also involve all those other core elements that we talked about before in terms of the kind of service that we can offer to one another and the ways in which we can just make use of the gifts God's given us. So we want to start by taking a look at, all right, our end goal. Begin with the end in mind. our end goal is going to be where we're going to be looking at in terms of a college experience. And it doesn't matter a whole lot what college it is, that sort of thing. Colleges are essentially looking for some key basic components as they take a look at incoming students. And let me mention, first of all, in terms kind of setting the context of what we're talking about here relative to colleges, realize that colleges are looking for that student that's going to be the right fit for their institution. They're going to look for that student who's going to be a graduate. And when I say graduate, I don't mean high school graduate. They are looking for that incoming freshman who's going to be a college graduate at their institution. Because if they're recruiting 5,000 freshmen and they're going to end up 4 years later with 3,000 seniors, that's not going to go well for them financially, first of all. And it's not going to speak well about their institution. So the most important thing for them is to find those students that are going to fit well with the culture and the climate and the context of their community, of their whole campus environment. And so there's a lot that goes into determining what that is. But I want you to begin with that kind of thought in mind, that it really is about what is it that's going to be the right fit for my student as they take a look at things down the road. And as you as students have an opportunity here in the not too distant future to start visiting colleges and talking to college reps and those sorts of things, to be thinking about, all right, so what kind of climate and what kind of culture of an institution is it that I'm going to be interested in and comfortable with and looking for. But some of the big things that they're obviously looking for has to do with grades and classroom accomplishment. And as you as students are looking at this, we've already had that discussion about the fact that, okay, this is freshman year, and from here on out, everything counts, because this is all part of a permanent high school transcript that you're starting to build at this point. Okay, so there's no room for, just letting some things slide because it's not going to really count a whole lot like junior high and so on. I'm not saying it didn't count then, because that's what got you to the point that you're at now. So that was important too. But this becomes part of a permanent record that you want to maintain. So this gives you a little bit about how our grading scale works, how our GPA system works, how the honors credit works. You'll notice that you get a little bit extra GPA point for the honors credit for A's and B's, not so for C's and below. Also want you to take a look at a little bit of the information that's there relative to some of the institutions you might be familiar with. ISU is going to look for at least a 2.5 GPA, and IU wants a 2.75 with a 19 ACT. A lot of schools will do that. They'll couple a GPA with an ACT score or SAT score. We'll talk about that kind of stuff as we get a little bit further down the line, but it's like ACT and SAT is kind of a Ford and Chevy issue. So we'll get to that when we get later. Let me mention too, so this is our one event here as we talk about the kickoff of our high school career for freshman college planning. We do another one as sophomores. It's going to be totally different. It's going to relate more to course selection issues and getting deeper into college selection and career interests and that sort of thing. At the junior year, then we start getting serious about college visits and testing and starting to make selections of college choices. And then senior year, we have a couple of sessions, one dealing just with finance and another dealing with what our final applications and scholarship searches and all those sorts of things are going to look like. So we do have a complete 4-year sequence from here on out. This is the only one that's specific for freshmen. And we're really talking as freshmen looking at this whole picture. But the thing I want to always emphasize is, every grade counts. I have some students that look at certain classes as being more important than others. I can understand why you might think that, but they all get grades, and all those grades roll in the GPA. PE and choir and religion and art, all that rolls in the GPA. It's not like those don't count as much because it's not math and science and English. Okay, it all counts. So take advantage of those areas in which you might be able to shine because you're a little bit stronger in maybe a fine art than you might be in a math or a science or something like that. Take advantage of that opportunity. Grand Canyon University likes to see a 3.0. They'll go with a 2.5, and some schools will do some of that sort of thing on like probationary status. Some colleges will ask the students come early over the summer to do some work to kind of get prepped for their first fall semester as freshmen if their GPA is looking a little less than what they'd like it to, that sort of thing. Just to mention as well, NCAA does kind of a unique balance between GPA. They only count certain classes for their GPA. So with NCAA, things like PE don't count, which seems kind of interesting, but they're looking at core courses. So they want to look at math and math, science, and English, and foreign language, and some social studies, and that's all they're going to look at. So that's the GPA they're looking for, and so sometimes you've got to really take a look at not just at the GPA that shows up on your Skyward, because you've got some things you have to sub out in order to get an NCAA GPA. They're also looking at ACT, and the way their system works is if your GPA is here, then your ACT better be here. And if your ACT is here, then your GPA better be here. They use kind of a balancing act between those two, which is sometimes a bit of a challenge because the bottom line that I always tell people, and the thing that's important for you guys as freshmen to recognize is ACT will tell you what's the number one thing to do. Well, what are the two things to do if you want to get a good ACT score? Take hard classes, do your homework. There's no secret to it. And you know, you can pay all sorts of money to go to places to review and to get prepared for an ACT or an SAT test, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. But the point is, if you haven't covered the ground to begin with, if you haven't laid the foundation by taking hard classes and doing your homework all along, you're not going to have a review to work with. Because if you're going as a junior and senior and you're just starting through, you know, Huntington or something like that to lay some of that foundation, that's not going to go well. The foundation for your ACT score and that sort of thing is happening right now. Okay? We'll talk about that as we get into some of the other reports we'll look at tonight. Okay? Questions on any of that? Certainly want you to feel free to raise your hand, ask questions, that sort of thing, anything that comes along that you want to know a little more about. It's also going to be key to what classes you took. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more in some of the handouts that come up. But you know, the honors classes we talked about, the GPA bump, and students will ask, well, you know, I can get an A if I take regular English. If I take honors English, I probably will get a B. What's the difference? What's the point? Well, the point is, if you're looking at a transcript and it's got 4 years of honors English and they're all B's, that says something. It says something about a student who's willing to take the harder class, and okay, maybe B was the best they could get on that class. That's okay, but that says something because colleges are not just looking at the GPA, they're looking specifically what classes did your students take. So those are important. AP classes, I want to mention something that's important about that. There really is no such thing as an AP class, or an AP class really is in itself irrelevant. The only thing that matters in AP is the test. Okay, you can take whatever class you want, get whatever grade in that class that you want. But when you get to the end game, it's all about that test that you take that one day in May that determines, do I get a high enough score to get college credit or don't I? And if you don't score well enough on that test to get the college credit, oh well. It's a high stakes test, it's a one and done sort of situation. Okay? So, and you don't need to take any particular class to take that test. The only thing you have to do to take that AP test is pay the fee. Okay? We've got lots of students here that have taken AP tests for classes that we don't offer. Because that's a class that they always like. They read up on it, they've studied it, it's just a hobby that they have, an interest that they have, so they know all about it. So they'll take the test and get the credit and everything's fine. Not a problem. But just kind of keep in mind that's how the AP kind of program works. Now, we emphasize and spend a little more time dealing with what we call dual credit classes. Dual credit class is actually a college level class. We'll talk about that again as we get a little bit further down the road. I'll show you some examples. But the bottom line is, it is a college level class taught by a teacher who has to have a master's degree and a certain number of graduate hours in that area, and are basically set up and equivalent to an adjunct professor at a university. Okay? So, for example, Mr. Freudenberg, who actually is an adjunct professor at Rock Valley, who teaches anatomy and physiology over there, also teaches a biology 2 class here. He's got all the qualifications to do that. So he essentially is functioning as a college professor here on our campus when he teaches that Lab 2 class. Same with Mr. Martin with Chem 2, Mr. Bonk with Government Economics, and so on and so on. The difference is it actually is a college level class. You get a college level syllabus, you have a college level textbook, you take a college level test. It is a college class. You get to the end of it, you get a college transcript that says whatever grade you got on that college class. And that transcript is transferable all over the country, all sorts of places. We can talk about that as you get a little older. But the thing that I like about the dual credit is, you know, someday your guys are going to be sitting in a college class as freshmen, and that teacher's going to hand you a syllabus, and they're going to tell you about the books that you need to buy, and they're going to tell you about the papers that you have to write, and the tests that you have to take. And you're going to look at that syllabus and say, yeah, I've done That's the kind of confidence we want you to go into your college experience with. And so from our perspective, that's the sort of thing that really grows from a dual credit kind of experience as opposed to just an AP or any other kind of honors class. Okay? So what classes you take are really key. We're going to be talking about that a little bit as we take a look at some forms tonight as well. Okay? Here are the graduation requirements that you have. And again, those are designed, they're laid out to prepare you for what colleges are looking for. Now, I will mention most states have a 3-year requirement for math and science. A lot of colleges now are getting a lot more interested in seeing at least 4 years of math, and some of them want 4 years of math and 4 years of science. Now, we've designed a system that accommodates that by creating what you see at the bottom, which is that flex category. So if you are going to take the 3 years of math and science to fulfill that requirement for math and science, but you also want to go into a university, particularly in a field of, let's say, engineering or medicine or something like that, and you want to pick up some of that extra math and coursework, math and science coursework, you'll see that can satisfy your flex category of those requirements. At the same time, if you're interested in going into something in the fine arts, and you're just going to go with the 3 years of math and science, that's going to be fine because you're going to take extra choir or going to take extra art because you're going to an art institute, that sort of thing. So that's why we created that flex category to give you a little bit more latitude. But at the same time, you're going to have to take either more science or engineering or arts or math, etc. in order to meet that requirement. So you still, it's not quite as broad as the elective category. You give you some choice, but it's focused in on some meatier categories. Okay? Oops. Okay, give you some ACT scores. That's what else that the colleges are looking at. Those scores are, as you can see, based on a lot of different categories. The ACT composite is based on the English, the math, the science, and reading. The numbers that you see there for our category, which we don't have the 2019 numbers yet, but 23.4 is the class composite. The 27.5 is the top half of the class. The 30.1 is the top quarter of the class, just to give you some context there. The other thing that's going to be key for the whole development of each of you as young people and parents, this is something that you're going to need to offer some support and some direction on as well. What other things are we going to get involved with outside of class? Because there's more to us than just 8 to 3 and getting the books. And that really is a big part of what colleges are looking for as well. Because again, they recognize that if you're going to come to their institution, you're going to connect in, and you're going to fit, and you're really going to bond and be a part of that college community. It's probably going to be because you're doing something besides just spending all your time in the classroom and the library and the dining hall. It's probably because you're getting involved in other things too. You're developing relationships, you're connecting in with that university, with that culture. How are you going to do that, and where are you going to do that? You're typically going to do it through some of these sorts of activities. And this is one of those areas where people, sometimes will say, well, how can my kid ever get prepared to go to a major university if they go to a little school like Rockford Lutheran? Well, I think they can probably be more well prepared. Because at a school like ours, a school of our size, we have a lot of activities. You're going to have an opportunity to explore all sorts of different things and try out a wide variety of arts and sports and leadership opportunities and so on. Because a lot of students who then go off to a major university sometimes have a struggle with where do I fit in amongst these 40,000 people? There's 10, 12,000 freshmen here. How does that work? Where do I connect in? Well, I've had students that go back and say, well, I had a great time playing volleyball at Rockford Lutheran. I wasn't going to play volleyball in a D1 team, but they've got a great intramural program here, and I like volleyball, and so I got together with a bunch of girls on my floor that like volleyball, and that becomes my group. And as a part of that, universities are finding that beyond intramural programs, they're also forming their own kind of version of club sports. So you've got your D1 intercollegiate team here, and you've got your intramural team here, and in between here, you've got like a club team that actually does compete against other colleges and universities, and it is selective. Not nearly so much as obviously the Big Ten team and that sort of thing, but it provides another opportunity for kids to get involved and to compete and have a good time time and connect with their university and to fit in. And so I think there's a lot of ways in which our students, because the wide variety, got that same sort of connection that they can make in those experiences as well. I particularly want you as students to recognize leadership opportunities are something for you to pursue. Nothing wrong with being part of Key Club, but there's a big difference between being a member of Key Club and being an officer of Key Club when I'm looking at a transcript or when I'm looking at, your resume, that sort of thing. There's a big difference between, just being part of a class and being a class officer, or being in charge of the prom committee, or homecoming hallway design committee, that sort of thing. Colleges are looking for people that are willing to step up and not just get involved, but really be leaders get involved. So look for those opportunities as you go through these next years. And in that framework, think of really having to literally keep track of what you're involved with and what sort of things you've done, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom. As you get into sophomore English, you'll be doing an English portfolio with Mr. G. Malva. That would be something I'd encourage you to continue on and keep active as you go into your junior and senior year. But for right now, I would say, create some sort of means by which you're keeping track of things that you're involved with. Because at some point in your senior year, you're going to be sitting down and putting together resumes and applications for scholarships and those sorts of things, and that's where these sorts of activities become very important. Are you going to remember everything you did as a freshman? Yeah, probably not. Okay, so let's come up with a way to work on that a little bit deliberately now. And extracurricular interests, you can look at this. It talks about a lot of different characteristics of what's important in terms of getting involved in extracurriculars and that sort of thing. One of the things I want to mention in particular, and this is again where your role as parents come in, allow your student flexibility to try all sorts of different things. Because I've also seen a lot of situations where some students have gotten so caught up in being a one sport athlete for so many years and years and years, and so much time gets put into that. By the time they're hitting junior, senior year, they're just tired of it. And that's at the point where they should be enjoying it the most and looking at that as a means by which they can connect with the university and that sort of thing. So work with them and understand that balance that comes between focus on something that I'm really gifted at and being so overly focused on it to the point where it isn't any fun anymore and I just really want to do something else. At the same time, you can go too far to the other extreme. You get involved in so many different activities that you burn the candle at both ends, and then the academic side of things becomes a bit of an issue too. So again, parents, your students are going to need some help in terms of navigating that a little bit. But getting involved is going to be key. Being selective about how you do that is important as well. So we'll start talking about a little bit of a timeline here. We'll go through the 4 years of things that you should be focusing on and thinking about as you go through the next 4 years. Study skills are going to be important at every grade level, but let's face it, your course expectations, you probably noticed in most cases, ramped up a bit this year. Okay, that's going to continue to happen. Sophomore and junior year ramps up a pretty another major step again. And by the time you get into junior, senior classes, especially if you're taking a lot of honors courses, dual credit classes, that sort of thing, we've got some students right now that are taking 5 college classes. That's a full load at a university. And that's not their whole load. They're doing 7 classes, but a couple of them are college classes. And they're doing sport. That gets pretty significant, okay? So you're going to need to develop the study skills and the time management skills to make that work, to be effective at that. Now, that's also going to be a huge payoff when you do get to the university and you are taking some pretty heavy-duty college classes, and at the same time you want to be involved in an intramural team or a music group or a drama production, that sort of thing. But the study skill development at this point and the time management skills at this point are huge. We'll talk a little bit more about academic plan, but looking at what classes do I want to take, what sort of things I want to look at down the road, the extracurriculars we talked about, and just focusing again on GPA is significant. Let me make sure I did this a slide here. Oh, we're good. Okay. Again, picking challenging classes is key. There's a lot of resources we have available for practice ACT or SAT. We'll get some details on that. You can find it on Counselor's Corner. If you haven't been to the school website and Counselor's Corner, I encourage you to start taking a look at that. There's things that are a part of every step of the process. By 10th grade, we're going to be talking quite a bit more about college testing. Your students, again, this year are going to take the Aspire test, which is an ACT product, which is set up essentially like the ACT test. Next year, they'll take a pre-ACT test, which is a paper and pencil, basically just a shortened down version of an actual ACT. Junior year, they'll take the pre-SAT, the PSAT test, which is more of a full-blown version of an SAT. And then by the time they're in their April, June months of their junior year, they should be registering and taking ACT and SAT tests. Again, we'll get into that in more detail when we get a little bit further down the road, but that's what I'll be thinking about at this point. So you'll start spend a little more time working on what your majors and interests might be as a sophomore. Continue to get involved in the extracurriculars and the GPA, and you're going to start developing a list of schools that you're going to be interested in. We'll be talking about how to do that. I'll meet with you as sophomores and talk about some resources we have to help with that. But that's going to be a part of the sophomore experience. And I'm going to encourage you as sophomores. This year we've got 40 plus universities that are sending reps to our campus to meet with students. And as sophomores, I encourage you to get involved in that. You're not going to meet with all 40 of them. Might be interested in that, but that doesn't work that way. But I am going to encourage you to get involved in that. And I'm going to say, by the time you get to that summer after your sophomore year, you should be talking about what are some schools I might want to visit, just to kind of get a feel for what a campus experience looks like and what some of my options are. And, colleges love that because they know a big part of their connecting with people is getting them on their property, getting them on their campus, and so on. So think about that. And it can be nothing more than, we're on our way to grandma's house and we're going to stop by and visit a school or two on the way and spend a couple hours here and there and that kind of thing. Sometimes you connect up with the admissions department ahead of time to buy you lunch and that sort of thing. So think about those sorts of things, but that's definitely an important part of the process that you want to begin working on. At the junior year, then again, we're taking the PSAT. By April, June, March, May, we're working on ACT and SAT. Again, you should be looking at leading, you being a captain of an extracurricular activity or a captain of a team, that sort of thing. We've got some upper level classes that are available there for you in terms of college credit and such. We've got some students that by the time they're juniors, particularly if they're looking into a medical career, they're looking at 2 science classes at a time. Yeah, we do have students that are graduating with 5 and 6 science classes under their belt by the time they leave and so on. And starting to think about what college jobs are going to look like. And again, by junior year, definitely looking at some more visits. The beginning of the senior year is when you need to be ready to turn in applications. And this is something that you want to be thinking about as you're thinking about this whole 4-year time frame. One of the things I'll tell you as sophomores is that August of your senior year, your college search process is over. Okay? Because August of your senior year, you need to be turning in applications. A lot of schools have November deadlines. Okay? And if they don't, the reality is they've only got so many seats. Okay, Marquette was here a few weeks ago. Great school. Engineering, medical, physical therapy, all those sorts of fields. They're going to have 2,000 seats for freshmen. They're going to have 16,000 applications. Okay, now you can wait till February and turn one in. I wouldn't suggest it because the seats are going to be full by then. And more importantly, the way the whole financial aid process works nowadays, you're allowed to turn in your application for free federal student aid starting in October 1st. The purpose for setting up that kind of a time frame is so that it coincides with when you're turning in your college application. Because now you can turn in your college application, you can turn in your financial aid application, and when you get an answer back, you can get a response which hopefully will be yes for college, and this is how much we can offer you for financial aid. Okay? Well, what that means though is if that's happening in October and November, not only are the seats going to be full by January, but the scholarship money is going to be already committed to other people. So that's why senior year, August, you need to be ready to start turning applications. The search process is over. Now, are students still getting accepted to places in February, March, and that sort of thing? Yeah, absolutely. But even if they are getting accepted, there's a greater likelihood that more of the financial aid money has already been expended. So Illinois has what's called a MAT grant. Again, we'll get into that sort of stuff later on. But it opens in October when the FAFSA application can go in. And, sometimes it's gone by Thanksgiving. So that's why the time frame here that we're working with, people think that, wow, you don't need to be messing around with college kind of stuff when you're sophomores, do you? Well, yeah, because by the time you're senior, you're really focusing on the application going in, getting the acceptance letters back, then making a decision about which one you're going to take. And the scholarship process then begins with that application and acceptance as well. Okay, questions on anything with the timeline that we're looking at? Okay. Want to make sure that, there's one other little topic that I want to make sure you're aware of and familiar with. That's one of the responsibilities that I have when I'm working with people in terms of their applications. Okay? This is a question that you do not want me to have to say yes to, because that's going to close a lot of doors. Okay? Believe it or not, we've had situations where people have had so many tardies. Tardies accumulate to detentions. Detentions accumulate to suspensions. They've had so many tardies, they've actually got a suspension for tardies. When I'm asked the question on the Common App, has a student ever been suspended? They don't care what the reason was. If I have to say yes, then I say yes. And in most cases, they say no. So little things matter, everything matters. Okay? Again, one of the things that we want to emphasize is as we're going through this process, as we're walking through these 4 years, as we're thinking about what sort of things we're involved with over the course of these years, the roles and relationships that you guys have with this process is huge. And so, the understanding the stresses that are involved with this and helping students deal with that is important. A great way to study, to deal with the stresses is by avoiding other distractions. Okay, and unfortunately in our world today we've got a lot more distractions than we've ever had before. And so it takes a little bit more effort on everybody's part to manage that. But unfortunately we've seen some of those tools that can be great tools and a lot of fun and so on, but I've also seen situations where they really derail people academically. So we need to work together to make sure that doesn't happen. The time management we talked about, physical activity and food and adequate sleep is a huge part of the picture of being well prepared for what's going to happen next stage of your academic career. Being involved with the school activities we talked about, and again, being consistent with what you accept in terms of behaviors and activities and curfews and all those sorts of things. When we take a look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the first is security. Okay, sometimes we think it's great to give students, some more freedom as they get older, and now they got the right ability to drive and all those sorts of things, and all that is great. However, those boundaries that we as parents still set for them provide an important component of security. It's an important component of their understanding that, there's more that I can do now, but there's still boundaries. And that brings a sense of safety and security to them as students that really is crucial for their healthy growth. So just keep that in mind. Another thing that we'll talk about a little more as we get into the Reese profile is the fact that there's things about your student that they don't understand about themselves yet. And part of that has to do with just some basic brain science. As we take a look at neurology and so on, it's a really expensive thing for a 23-year-old male to go rent a car. Why is that? Well, Hertz knew 40 years ago that just didn't turn out well in too many cases. And so if they were going to rent a car or something like that, they were in charge of a fortune because they weren't sure what kind of condition it was going to come back in. Well, why was that? They didn't really know. They didn't really care. They just knew that's what happened. If they were going to stay in business, they're going to have to charge 23-year-old males more. So they did. They've been doing it for years. Why is that? Now we understand prefrontal cortex. It's not completely developed until you're about 25. That's the part of your brain that you use to make good, sound, logical decisions. Like, I know I can do an 85 on this road right now because there's nobody else here, but is that still a good idea? Well, okay, but if that part of their brain is literally not going to be totally developed until they're 25, and right now they've got to make a decision about what college to go to and what career to get into, what does that mean? They're going to need help because their brain can't do it by itself. And so, and the students, I mean, that's okay. I mean, it's not like there's anything wrong with you. That's just neurology, developmental stages and so on. But realize as students that, okay, so maybe you should listen to what mom and dad have to say about, you know, what works well for me and what doesn't work well for me. And as parents, realize you're going to have a huge role in helping them really understand themselves better, because there's literally some parts of their brain that's not going to understand themselves very well. And that's normal and it's okay. But that's why, you know, that's why God gave us parents. Okay. Okay. Anything else on that whole side of things so far? Okay. So where to begin in terms of looking for some things and tools to use and so on. Again, Counselor's Corner, we've got all sorts of resources there. These will be available to you. The Illinois Career Information System, I'll be working with their students a lot as sophomores as they take a look at themselves and study their skill abilities and interest inventories and so things like that to help them select a major, and then take a look at universities that they're interested in based on, you know, the size and geography and all those sorts of things. Along with that, some other parenting tools here, some other things about financial components to look at relative to college planning and such. One of your handouts back there was a sheet that talked about, okay, these are the things that we should be doing every year in high school. On the back of it said, these are the things we should be doing in 9th grade. Some of that has to do with that, with financial stuff that's important for you. There's a lot of other financial resources that we've got to find Counselor's Corner, so feel free to take a look at that. But there's a lot of sites there related to federal government and student aid and those sorts of things that are going to be helpful to you in terms of looking at financial components down the line. And let me mention a couple of things. A lot of people, you know, a lot of stuff in the news about, you know, students, high school students that get these wonderful college scholarships for athletics. Absolutely, it happens. It's not as common as we wish it would be, because it's just not. Okay. The most important thing that I can share for you relative to the whole financial component is, you know, if there's this much money available for college athletics, there's this much available for grades. Okay, money is in the grades. Nothing wrong with spending time at summer camp and going off and doing extra activities and that sort of thing. But you know, if your math score, if your English writing ability, if you know your science background is not quite where you really want to be, and therefore your GPA is suffering, and therefore your ACT is going to suffer, that's going to cost you. Okay, so the money is really in the grades, and it's not, you know, it's not hard to understand why. Colleges rate themselves, rate each other on the basis of the quality of the graduates. Well, they're going to get really good graduates if they have really strong students coming in the front door. So they're going to be looking for some really strong students. So when they've got a limited amount of money to spend on recruiting students, they're going to do it on students that they know are going to be successful in the classroom. Because while it's great to, you know, to have a championship football team and that sort of thing, there's only going to be one of those. There's only one team that wins the last game of the season, right? So, you know, what else is it that's going to determine the strength of your institution? It's going to be how well your students do when they graduate. How many of them get into grad school? How many of them get into jobs right away? How many of them get good scores on their MCATs and their other tests that they have to take for grad school? That's the stuff that's really important. So in order to get students that are going to do that and going to make them as look good as a university, they're going to want to recruiting students that have strong academic backgrounds. Okay? So, okay. Before we get into Reese profile, I want to talk about a couple of other handouts that were back there for you. One of them is just a one-sided, kind of plain-looking black and white page that looks like this, and at the top it says course selection, list of available courses. Okay, you're going to be getting this, or the next year's version. This is the class of 2022's version. that was used this year. So you're going to be getting this right after the first of the year. I want to go through just a few things that are on here because it fits with what we're talking about here tonight. First of all, these are all the courses that are available. The way this process works is in December, I'll be giving this man what math class they should take. And the English teacher will go and recommend what English class they should take. And the same with science and so on. Okay? So this is a list of sophomore courses, so you have a chance to look forward to that. Get a little bit of a jump start on what's that going to look like for next year. Because right now, the bottom line is your teacher recommendations are basically going to be driven around a couple of different things. Are you in an honors class now? Yes, no. If the answer is yes, are you getting an A or a B? If the answer is yes, then they're going to recommend that you're in that honors class again next year. If you're in an honors class now, but you're not getting an A or B, then you won't be recommended for honors class next year. If you're in a regular class now, and you're getting an A, very likely you get recommended for honors next year. Okay, so essentially, if you're in honors, you get A's and B's, you stay there. If you're in regular, you get A's, you can move up to honors. Make sense? So think about that because the grades you're getting right now are what's going to determine that. Because like I just said, I'm going to give this to them in December. They're going to be finishing up your first semester grades. So the grades you're getting right now, and we're halfway through first semester, are going to determine what you're going to be recommended for next year. And we just talked about how important it is that you take hard classes and do your homework. Okay? All right, so let's look at a couple things down here. You see on the left-hand column, it always starts with electives, and then there's English, you got honors and regular, you got fine arts, you have a number of choices there. Go down to math, you see a lot of choices there, and again, it's going to be all driven by what math class you're in now and what your grades are. I want to take a look at PE a little bit because this gets a little bit more complex. Okay, so your freshman year right now, for example, you're not taking the social studies, okay, but you are taking a fine art. Next year, as sophomores, you will be picking up a social studies. You see that's a little bit farther down the line. In social studies, you have geography, world history, honors, world history to choose from. Okay. State requirements, you have to have 3 years of social studies. That's going to be your first year, one of those 3. Okay. But you've already got 7 classes in the study hall. If you want to keep 7 classes in the study hall for next year, and you have to add in social studies, that means something else needs to come out. Now, for some students who are not excited about fine arts, the thing that comes out is the fine arts class, because that's only a 1-year requirement. It's a one and done if you want it to be. Okay, so the art class drops out, the social studies class rolls in. You've got 7 classes in the study hall. Make sense? Okay. If, however, art is your thing, or band, or choir, or orchestra is your thing, you don't want to drop that. And that's fine. That's why we had you do it first year, because if you do like it, we want you to stick with that. Because believe it or not, we've got a lot of students that come through here and get college scholarships for band, choir, and orchestra. Okay? I had 4 kids. 3 of them had athletic scholarships. 3 of them had music scholarships. Obviously, some of them had a little bit of both. $5,000 a year to play in the band they operate at the university. Works for me. $20,000. Didn't have to borrow, didn't have to pay. I didn't want to tell them you would have been in a band anyway because you love being in a band. And when they go to NCAA, guess who goes with the team? The band. So, yeah, but that, that's reality. So if that's the thing that's important for you is the fine arts thing, here's what we've done. You'll see under PE, there's health and PE. The state requirement is you have 3 semesters of PE, 1 semester of health. You've got 2 semesters of PE this year. You pick up 1 more semester of PE, 1 semester of health, and you're done with PE unless you want to keep going to more. You can finish your requirements right there. Okay? However, in order to help facilitate some of those students who need to take social studies, but they don't want to drop their fine art, they have a chance to take health over the summer online. Okay, so you take the health online over the summer. Now, you don't have to drop band, orchestra, art, whatever. You can add the social studies. You've still got the study hall because you took health over the summer where you otherwise would have had health, you now have a study hall. Now, what do you do with the other semester PE? Well, some students will go ahead and take the other semester PE, have 8 classes for 1 semester. PE doesn't add any homework. It does take away the study hall. For some students that works okay, they do it that way, they get done, and they're all good. Other students will say, yeah, that's going to crunch me too much, I've got to sports, I've got whatever, I really need the study hall. We can put the PE off in the junior year too. Okay, so there are some other choices to think through with that. But that's why we have that health online over the summer. Now, I gave you the scenario of keeping fine arts, adding social studies, and during our study hall, you drop the health because you do it over the summer, right? I'm not trying to get too confusing here, but there are other options of things you might want to do. Let's say, yeah, fine arts is not my thing, but engineering is. So now I drop art, I add social studies, but I also want to add engineering because we have a 3-year engineering program, sophomore, junior, senior year. Okay? So what do? I take the online health over the summer, I drop the art, I add the social studies, and I add the engineering. I do the health over the summer, I still got a semester of study hall. And if I want to drop the PE, I have a semester of study hall, both semesters, and I'm good. And I get my engineering, because that's what I know I really want to do. That works too. Okay, makes sense? So when you get these in the winter, because you'll get these later in like January, okay, after the teachers have put the recommendations down, students I'll go over with them, and we'll send them home. You'll go over with your students, you'll sign off, it comes back. But just trying to give you some background in terms of how that works, okay? So that explains the health and PE, also explains a little bit about the social studies. You need to have 2 years of foreign language at the high school level. I'm always going to encourage kids to continue to do foreign language, okay? If you want one thing that's going to open up some phenomenal job opportunities for you, just get a minor in foreign language. And how do you do that? Some of you have already done some foreign language in 7th and 8th grade, and that's going to pay off big time as you continue on through. You're going to have at least 2 years of foreign language, so that's going to put you into year 3 and 4. That's great. I'm going to say keep doing 5 and 6 because many cases you go through 5th and 6th year of a foreign language here, and when you get to college, they'll typically have you do some kind of a placement test there. Very typical that students will test out 2 semesters, 3 semesters, sometimes even 4 semesters of college level foreign language because of the 5 or 6 years that they took here. Now, what does that mean? A minor in a foreign language is 6 semesters. If you test out of 3 or 4 semesters, what does that mean? I take 2 classes and I have another degree? Are you serious? Yeah. That's huge. Especially when someday your resume for a business or for a job as a business management person or a lawyer or a physician or whatever it is on a desk with a whole stack of others, but yours is the one that's got, in addition to your degree, you've also got a minor, another degree in a foreign language. In our world today, that's huge. That's huge. So I'm going to encourage you to continue the foreign language all the way through, just for that reason. Questions? We'll talk about this stuff more when you come sophomore year. We'll meet sophomore year while you have these forms. Just so you know, that's one thing that's different about the sophomore program. Okay. Let's take a look at another one. This one here has our graduation requirements on it. I wanted to share that with you. If you have a chance to take a look at that, it's here on the front. If you look at the back, here are our courses that are available for students in high school. Okay? So as you take a look through that, you'll see what the sequence is from 9 through 12. You see all the options in terms of regular and honors level. You see the options for things like engineering and yearbook and entrepreneurship and accounting and so on and so on. Okay? So kind of follow those along, take a look at what that can look like down the road. And by all means, start talking to your student now about, okay, so what do you want to take next year? Well, what are you liking that you're taking this year? What's going well for you? What's working well? What do you want to start getting into? Do you want to keep doing art? Do you want to keep doing music? Do you want to start engineering? You know, do you want to start yearbook? Do you want to, really focus in on foreign language? All sorts of options. Okay? Questions on anything you see here? This is just more of a kind of a resource for you. As you take a look at this, though, you'll see there's a lot of courses junior, senior year, because that's where we offer more things for you to begin to specialize. So freshman, sophomore year, you really are focusing on, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is what God's kind of wired me to do. This is what I have a passion for. This is what I'm going to take more of. So yeah, when I get over here to junior, senior year, I am going to be taking 2 science classes at a time because I'm going to get out of here with, you know, a couple of college level courses already completed. Okay. Obviously, you need the 4 years of math. That's there too. The 4, 5, 6 years of language is there. The fine arts are there. Engineering, business, social studies, etc. Okay, questions on any of that? All right, one other one that was there for you to pick up says at the top, dual credit classes. Now, these, again, this is going to be something that's happening down the road, but here's why I want to start talking about this now. These are online dual credit classes, so they're online classes that you get high school credit, college credit at the same time. This is Grand Canyon University. This is Concordia University Mequon in Wisconsin. Okay? We've got some special relationships with both these schools. No, I don't get any kickbacks for talking about this. I wish, but no, it doesn't work that way. But you're the ones who get the kickback because these classes are basically $50 an hour. Okay? And Rock Valley is over 110. Okay? These are $50 an hour. So now is a good time to be thinking about, okay, so what might I want to do a little bit farther down the road to start getting a little bit more of this under my belt? Typically, a lot of colleges are going to want to see that you're a junior first, but they're also going to want to see you got at least a 3-point GPA. That starts today, right? Building that GPA starts today. But think about the huge opportunities this opens up for you. One other thing I'll mention about your classes when you get to junior, senior year, your junior religion class is going to be a semester of world religions and a semester of Christian service. Christian service is primarily a 40-hour project you do outside of school. You have class 1 day a week. We kind of give you some extra time so that you can do that 40 hours outside of school. A lot of students do their service projects over the summer. Turn in all the paperwork, get approved by the religion teacher ahead of time, all that sort of thing. It's all good, no problem. So now they've got this extra study hall 4 days a week. They don't go to class 1 day a week for Christian service, right? So 4 days a week they've got this extra study hall that we gave them so they can do it 40 hours. They got the 40 hours done, now what? 4 days a week, I can sit in here and do an online dual credit college class. The great benefit of this is you see the list of courses that are available. Yeah, it's great to get the college credit, that sort of thing, but you know why else this is huge? If I really think I've got an interest in getting into something to do with computer programming, I take computer programming 1. And $200 later, and 15 weeks later, I decide, do I want to do more computer programming or don't? If you decide no, what did you lose? $200 and a semester of study hall in the core. That's all you lost. You go to college, thinking that you want to do computer programming, and so you start taking it, and then the semester in, or a year in, you decide, okay, yeah, that's not really what I want to do. How much did that cost you? Probably about $40,000 a year of your life. Because whatever you were taking to be in computer programming is not going to help you now that you're going into accounting or fill in the blank. So the greatest thing about these courses is the fact, let's play around with it now while it's only going to cost us a couple $100. And if we like it, great, we're going to keep going that direction. And if we don't, I learned an important lesson, it cost me $200. I still got the college credit, which will probably still be useful for you as selected, if nothing else. And move on. Okay? Questions on any of that?
Is there a date before we can sign up for some credit classes like in the summer or something? Is that an option?
Typically, they're going to want to see it after your sophomore year. Yeah, some will allow it before then if you've got a high enough GPA. But that is individual to the university. Okay? Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay. This package you should have picked up. The first thing to check is to make sure that it's your student's name that's on the front. Sometimes, that doesn't get, that little detail gets missed. That's okay. All right. On the back, the last page of the packet looks like this. This is your student. If your student was here last year, they should have one of these on the back page. And this would be their Aspire score results from last year. Okay? English, science, reading, math, just like the ACT. The dots show where your student scored, and if you were here for multiple years, there will be multiple dots that show the progression of your student in that subject area. Okay, so like the orange dot would be this year, and the darker dots would have been previous years. So you're going to want to see some upward progression in those dots. You're going to also want to see those dots in the green shaded area, because those are the scores that you would get that would be considered by ACT as being in meeting the college readiness standards. Now, what does that mean, ACT? ACT is really pretty unique. When they determine college readiness standards, every about 3, 4, or 5 years, they do a huge survey of college professors and say what your students need to do in order to be successful in your freshman level science class, freshman level math class, freshman level English class, writing class, count class, lit class, etc. And so they get that survey from tens of thousands of university professors, and then they just work back and say, okay, what skills do students need to have in order to get an A or a B in that class when they go to college as a freshman? And then, therefore, what score do they need on the ACT in order to get an A or B in that class when they go to college as a freshman? That's college readiness. That's how they define that. That's how they build the tests. Okay? So this is showing where you're at in that progress. You want to be in the green area. If you're not, then we should talk about some things that can happen in order to work at getting there. Okay? Questions on this upper part here? If you look at the lower part, first of all, they get into some other details of some of the sub-scores on these 4 main tests. But over on the right, it says national percentile rank. And just so we understand that, because this gets really confusing for everybody, percentile is not the same as percentage. Okay, percentile rank means out of 100 people that took this test, how many of them did you outscore? If you're dead on average, it'll be 50. If you outscored more than 50, that means you're ahead of average. If it's less than 50, that means you're below average. Now, average, in terms of bell curve, and we don't have time to get into all that, average runs from 35 to 65. So 37 would still be considered average, big picture average. Okay? It's low average, but it's still average. Anything up to 65 then is average. 63, 62, whatever would be high average. And then once you get beyond 65, then you're in the above average category, and then get beyond that, I guess, way above average. Okay? But that's how percentile works, so you kind of understand those numbers. Okay? On the back, they give you some more detailed breakdown of what areas of math and science and English and so on did you do best at, which ones did you struggle with. Okay. Again, this is ACT. That's who wrote this test. It's built on their college readiness standards. So this is why we use it, because it gets you ready for that as a sophomore, or excuse me, as your senior. So take a look at that. And if your student scores aren't where they need to be, then let's take a look at some things that can happen now to try and make some progress on that. They'll be taking that test again this year as freshmen. Next year they'll start the pre-ACT, pre-SAT, and so on. Okay? Questions on the Aspire. Okay, this is called the Regional Racial Profile. Your students took a set of questions and basically said, yeah, this is important to me, this is exciting to me, this isn't important or not exciting to me, that sort of thing. And just answered those questions, and from that was developed kind of a portrait of your student as to, okay, so what motivates them? What do they get excited about? What are they passionate about? What do they really not so much care about? Okay? So if you take a look, the page 3, which would look like this, it lists all the basic desires that they evaluated. Okay? And then, I'll talk about those in a second. On the back of that page, page 4, you'll see where your students scored in each of those areas. Either above, middle, average, or below average. Okay? Now, this is one of those areas, though, where above and below average doesn't necessarily mean good or bad. I mean, most of these are really not good or bad. They're just different. They're just things that define you and your student differently, okay? So the rest of the packet is a complete breakdown of your report. This is all specific to your report, okay? No two of these are the same, so this is not just those areas, okay? So a lot of good stuff for you to take some time to read here. Let me talk through a few of these a little bit so you kind of get the idea of how this works, okay? So let's take a look at this list: basic desires, strong needs, weak needs. Take a look, for example, acceptance. If your student has a strong need for acceptance, in other words, it's really important to them that they're liked by a lot of people, okay, that can, in the extreme, that can lend them to be a little bit insecure. If acceptance is not a big deal to them, then they're very self-confident. They don't care what other people say, they don't care what other people think, they just do what they think is right and what they want to do. Okay? So now what does that mean in terms of their potential interests and careers and that sort of thing? Well, you know, some people are in a kind of a job where they've got to have a lot of self-confidence and self-assurance because they're going to get, you know, people hammered on them all the time. You know? Some people can handle that, some can't. This will tell you, which category you would call it. Curiosity. Strong need in curiosity means you're really a thinker. Okay? If curiosity is a weak need for you, you're more of a doer. Okay, here's an example I gave the kids. All right? So, the person who's got a strong need for curiosity is going to take a look at the fact that we've got some sort of animal that's going extinct in the Amazon, and they're going to want to find out why. They're going to want to study that and figure out what's causing that to happen. The doer is going to get in part of a zoological expedition and go down. They're going to capture some of those animals and bring back up here so we can put them in a zoo and they won't be extinct. Okay? See the difference between the thinker and the doer. Okay? It's going to lend you totally different directions in terms of career. Neither one of them is bad. They're both good. But if you have an understanding of what sort of orientation your student has, that's going to put you in a position to be more helpful to them as they think about what do I want to do with the rest of my life. So, honor, trustworthy versus expedient, okay? You know, there's a lot of careers nowadays that you've got to go through a whole lot of background checks and all that sort of thing in order to qualify. You know what, if honor is a really huge deal with you, then that's going to be no problem. You're going to sail right through that. That'll be totally fine. Idealism, dreamer, if that's a strong need for you, or if that's a weak need, is a realist. Okay, the dreamer, are you more the creator kind of person, dreaming what could be? Or are you going to be the realist, because you don't have much of a need for idealism? You're just going to, just let me go out and get the job done. I'm not dreaming about it, I'm just going to do it. Okay? Independence. Self-reliant or interdependent? Self-reliant. You know what? You're going to want to run your own business because you're so independent that's the only person you're going to be able to work for? Or are you that kind of person? Yeah, independence is not a big deal for me. I really want to be a part of the team. See, if you understand that about yourself, that's going to point you different directions in terms of potential careers. Order. If you're hugely organized because you have a strong need for order, yeah, you could do really well as an accountant, right? You got good number and sense, that kind of thing, okay? However, if that's not your thing, then, yeah, that's not going to go well. But let's figure that out now. Now, the other thing about that is realize not every accountant had a clean closet when they were 14. Okay? I mean, there's some of that is developmental and it works. It's way up. But you as parents, I had 4 kids, and you know what? I could figure some of this stuff out from watching how they played with cars. My brother, God love him, bought him this bucket of 150 little cars. When the oldest one was like 2. But every one of those 4 kids played with those cars differently. And now that we look back on it, we can say, oh yeah, that's why this one lined them up by color and by size. Because order. That was now a science teacher. Right? This one, all about which one could go the fastest, which one could go the farthest across the floor, and went down the hill this big. Engineer. Every one of them played with the cars different. Okay, so you as parents, you already know that stuff about your kids. So fit it into this sort of a thing, and it'll be really helpful to you as you talk about what the next 4 years look like and what happens after that. Social contact. Some people just love working with people and want to be friendly, and for others, that's like, let me sit down in a cubicle someplace and type code all day long. I'm totally fine with that. I don't need other people. Just just me and the computer. Hey, that's great, you know, that's how we got networks and computer systems and all that kind of stuff. Okay. One of the ones that Lenny mentioned about vengeance is the last one, and some people think, oh, that sounds awful. How can that be good if I have a strong need for vengeance? Well, are there some people in this world that have a job where they have to confront people? And they've got to be strong, they've got to be willing to go to battle, and stand up for what's right and what they believe in, and be willing to confront people with it. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And there's others for whom vengeance is a weak need, and they're the peacemaker. Nothing wrong with that either. The point is, figure out which one you are. So this is I think it's a really helpful tool. I encourage you to spend some time with it. You know, when my kids were at the age that you guys are at, and my last one just graduated from college last year, we spent a lot of time there at week. Just one-on-one, maybe you want to go down DQ, get some ice cream. I mean, not too many kids say no to that, right? So we don't talk about that kind of stuff. No? So tell me about school. How's class going? What's your there? How about we talk about that profile? How about we talk about, you know, what you think about this? You didn't say that you were like this. Notice that all the questions and their responses are at the back of that report. So you can literally sit down with them and go through the questions and their answers and ask, why'd you put that? Because there might be some of this that, yeah, we're probably getting tired at the end of the half-hour session and just put something down. That's totally possible, okay? No one test is going to be fail-safe. But take some time to talk to them about that. Because you as a parent might be able to say to them, yeah, that's not really good. Or you might be able to say to them, you know what's going on. That is, I know that. And then talk to them about why that's that. And that's okay. It took me years to work out all that ice cream. But, you know, those are great times with my kids. And now they're all off doing other things. How's my wife on it? We talk about great times we have with the kids. So, questions? Well, appreciate your time tonight. Sorry, I ran a little bit longer than I wanted to. I'll be around for answering questions later on. Some of your students might not have gotten, they might have been absent when we did the Reese profile. Have them come and see me. We can still do that. If that's helpful to you. Take a look at Counselor's Corner. Make sure you take a look at those things that are available online. I would really appreciate it if you could answer just some quick questions for me. Let me know some things that I can do that would be helpful for people that are here in the future. Any questions that anybody else has right now that would be good for the group to talk about?
Does the school have a foreign exchange program?
We have, in terms of students that come here, or go, we have quite a few students that come here. Students that go, we haven't had as much of interest in that, but we do have a foreign exchange program director, and that could be something that they would be able to help you with if you're interested. Good question. Anybody else?
We're looking for some business for this ACT, but as far as preparing for the ACT, like on-site type of thing.
Yeah, you know what, and that's something that if you'd like to put that on this forum too, because we have been talking about some different ways in which we can help people that your Aspire isn't quite looking like the way you want it to. What would be some things that would be helpful for you in doing that? We've thrown out some ideas like maybe summer programs, okay? We do that a little bit with junior high, and that's been successful. Now, and this is where, yeah, summer programs, yeah, but I want to do volleyball or basketball or football or something, that sort of thing. Well, okay, but maybe we can work both of them in there a little bit. And in the meantime, your math score a little bit better. So if you've got some ideas of some things that we could do with like ACT test prep that would work for you, your family in terms of time frame and all those sorts of things, put that on this form too. That would be really helpful to us. But we're looking at summer programs, maybe evening programs, maybe looking at something that would occur in that senior year during the Christian service class, etc. There's going to probably have to be some kind of cost involved with it because it's expensive to do that and do it well. I mean, the books that you buy for that can be $70, $80. You can get cheaper ones too, but I don't know if that's necessarily always a good idea. But we're looking at how can we do that for you that's a whole lot cheaper than Huntington, which can be $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So if you got some ideas for that.
These reports that we download, are these reports downloadable?
The Reese reports? I can email it to you with that.
That'll get lost. This will be lost.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so which category does that fall into? That one about order? Is that Yeah, I've got all those profiles on PDF. So if you want another copy of it, just email me and I'll email it back. Okay. Anything else? So yeah, share some thoughts about ACT on here. Thanks for coming tonight, and God's blessings to you for the next 4 years. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be quick, so enjoy it. You just leave those on the chair.
ACT classes, you know it's gonna be good, right?